I did a class the other day, and I want to show you a clip. I'm going to title this clip Connect the Dots. You remember when we were in school, when we were younger, and the teacher gave us an assignment, and it was a Connect the Dots 1 through 20. And when we were done connecting the dots, we would end up with a cow, a pig, a balloon. But it was very interesting because we couldn't see the big picture until after the dots were all connected. Well, that's how it is with our residents. In order to see why they behave the way that they do, we have to connect the dots, which means connecting with the resident to know them a little better, know about their past, know what they've been through. So I'm going to be talking in this clip about my grandmother Alice before Alzheimer's and after Alzheimer's. And what happens is you can see the big picture once you know her life. I want you, after this clip, after you watch this, to start making those connections with your residents so that you can connect those dots. Make those meaningful connections with your residents so that you can step into empathy with them and so that you can have compassion and understanding. Watch this clip. Thank you so much. So I am going to tell you about my grandmother. Her name was Alice. And Alice, I'll tell you about her life before Alzheimer's. And I want you to kind of figure out things about Alice when she got Alzheimer's, why she acted the way she did. So Alice before Alzheimer's, she was a white woman, but she had 3 black children, and it was in the time of segregation. And during that time, white people and black people, they couldn't go to the same restrooms, they couldn't go into the same restaurants. So my grandmother Alice would pack lunches for all 3 of her children. She would take them places, but if they had to use the restroom, she brought along her toilet paper and they would use it in the woods or near a tree because she could not go into the same restroom as her children. So my mom always tells me stories of how she never went into restaurants, she never went into restrooms. My grandmother also worked for the Ohio State University, where she worked as a housekeeper there. She would do laundry for some of the students and do laundry for the building, and she was a Christian. She went to church. She was there. She was in the choir. She loved singing. She loved being in the nursery at the church. She always was singing. When I would go down to the basement of the church, you hear her singing with the kids, taking them out. When my grandfather died, when my grandfather died, she ended up going to an independent living where she would go and knock door to door and ask people. She never drove, but she would get on the bus and she'd say, I'm going to Big Bear, I'm going to Kroger's, what do you need? And she would ask her neighbors who couldn't get out, and she would go and get their groceries on the bus and bring them back. She was just a great person. She would even go to the hospitals and sing with the sick. She was just an incredible lady, and I miss her so much. But then she got Alzheimer's. She was on the bus one day and did not know where she was going. The bus driver knew my mom and called and said, your mom is lost. I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina at the time when we got the call, and my mom said, your grandmother is lost. We got to go get her some help. Found out she had Alzheimer's, and I didn't know what it was. This was a long time ago. I did not know what it was. So while I was in Charlotte, I would go visit nursing homes because I wanted to be around people that had Alzheimer's because I wanted to know what my grandmother had. And so I would take my children. My husband and I were youth pastors at the time. We would take our group to go and visit with people in the nursing home. I decided to quit my banking job and do full-time in nursing homes so I could be around my grandmother since I could not be in Ohio. Well, I will tell you this. I got a call. My mom said, your grandmother, she's driving everybody in the nursing home crazy. And my mom got this call where my grandmother was pooping in all the artificial trees in the building. Why?
In the woods.
Because she when she started Alzheimer's, she don't know.
She thought she was in the woods.
Yes.
So they thought it was a behavior, like, oh my gosh, Alice, no!
Yeah.
They thought it was behavior, but we were new to Alzheimer's, so we did not connect the dots. We didn't know that that's why she was doing it. We were like, what? She's doing what? And they were like, everybody, we got to take up all the artificial trees because Alice will not stop pooping and peeing in our trees. So my mom would take ice cream to the staff and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's another thing that Alice would do. One day, she got all of the residents lined up at the door and said, we're getting out of here. Why do you think she did that? There was something about her life that she did.
Yeah. That she had to take some people with her. The underground.
No, the kids.
Church.
She was at the church. She was in the nursery room, take the kids out. She had them all lined up, and we didn't understand why. We were like, oh my gosh, she's driving this place crazy. And so again, my mom would go and take treats and say, I'm sorry. There was another thing that she would do that drove all of the housekeepers crazy, all of the care staff. She would go into your room, take your socks, put them in your drawer, take your shirts, put them in your drawer, and the family members would come and say, I can't find my mom's stuff. They're not here. Who took my mom's stuff? Why?
Washing the kids.
She was a housekeeper for OSU. Yes. So there is a reason for all this. You just have to know your resident. So if you know your resident, you can connect the dots and find out why they're behaving the way. But we didn't understand it. It wasn't until I knew Alzheimer's I was like, oh, that's why she did that.
Yeah.
But sometimes we think that these residents, we're like, something's wrong. Why are they doing that? There's a reason. And I love playing detective now. I'm like, let me figure out, why is this resident pacing the floor like this? What did they do in their other life? So what I like for everybody to do is when you're making those connections with them, even in the dining room, ask them questions. Ask questions, and they love to hear about your life too. So in the dining room, say, hi, Miss Alice. You'll hear Alice's name through this whole thing. Hi, Miss Alice. What did you do for a living? Were you married? How long were you married for? Ask those questions.